Hey folks, today we'll be talking about responsive design and its impact on digital work that you may be working on for class or for your other projects. This video is a multi-part video, maybe about 4 or 5, where I also discuss the applications of responsive design, how to design for it, ways to manage its workflow, and more. So the first thing I'd like is to provide a brief overview of the types of things I want you to take away from this video series. The first thing is I want you to be able to apply responsive design principles to your design practice. So it's not just about working on this one project and making it responsive. It's more so kind of shifting your way of thinking about digital design and making sure that it's available for all people, but also all devices as well. I also want you to be able to discuss the specific nuances as you design for multiple screen sizes. So of course, digital is digital, everything's rendered on a pixel, but the way that people interact with a cell phone is very different than the way someone interacts with a laptop computer. So this design exercise and tutorial should help you better understand that. We'll also look at some worldwide usage metrics of different screen sizes and platforms so that you can get a better understanding of how different countries, how the behaviors and patterns of folks in different countries reflect the use of different devices, but also the importance of responsive design to those countries. So some ways that this should connect to your long-term goals if interactive design is a career that you're interested in. It's important to know that flexible design systems are certainly one of the most important things you can consider while working on your projects. So it's not just about designing for the iPhone 6, but for all iPhones created after 2015, for example, or creating an app that would work across your iPhone, your iPad, and your Apple operating system on the laptop. Something to know is that designers who are able to work from a responsive design kit and who are able to establish those flexible patterns up front will be able to much more easily adapt their designs for when there are product upgrades in the market. So there's less of a flurry or rush to update the designs based on a new product launch, but it may come down to making sure that the engineering staff has all the assets they need in order to make it work. Also, being able to make your products more adaptive or responsive up front makes sure that your products are available to more people ultimately in the long run. So again, if you're using a really flexible design system and things that can be scaled between a smaller mobile phone and maybe the largest TV screen, then you can make sure that anyone who is within that gamut of devices can actually use your product. So let's talk a little bit about design philosophies between the different devices. And I say design philosophies because this isn't practices that have been completely set in stone. There has been some research conducted and also some observational studies to help justify some of these philosophies that I'll be bringing to mind. However, with most philosophies, and qualitative studies, I would say that this is not always 100% bulletproof. So just keep that in mind that this is a perspective that is shared in the design community, but may be difficult to really prove out as like an input-output model. So with mobile design, we have a philosophy that we consider where it's called the lean forward philosophy. So here I've got a cell phone and I'm kind of leaning forward and using it to check my email or chat with people. So in this lean forward philosophy, what we're looking at is someone who is very completely immersed in this phone. So they're looking at information where it's presented to them in a way that they focus on just that and they don't focus on anything else. So we see that a lot with social media, things like Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram, where the content is extremely immersive. And generally, it really focuses on one or two use cases at a time. So with Instagram, for example, the primary the primary role of Instagram in someone's life is most likely to post photos or to view other people's posted photos and to be able to connect with those people either directly through chat or on some emotional level. So the content itself is fairly limited when you look on a cell phone screen, because one, there's not a lot of real estate on your phone screen, but also the content design is what we like to call in the industry snackable. So snackable means that it's information that's bite-sized. Sorry, there's a lot of food, kind of food comparisons, but it's bite-sized. We're just giving enough information to get someone to engage with it. And if they're interested in diving more into that, then they can do so at their own initiative. So with the Instagram model, here we're looking at just a photo feed. So we have a photo and someone's name, maybe a caption, and a comment thread. But here we provide in Instagram a way for you to actually take action on that feedback. So you can like it, you too can comment in on the discussion, you can send this post to somebody else, or you can post this image to your story, for example. So here the content again is snackable. It's given in very manageable chunks when it comes to cognitive processing. So we're not overwhelming them with too many options. We're really hyper focusing on just a couple of tasks at a time. And here, for this mobile design philosophy, what we're really looking at is the concept of consumption and immersion. So mobile, because it's such a private device and the size lends itself to be a device that is used exclusively by one person, it becomes much more personalized, but then also is used significantly for information consumption, not only with social media, but news sources as well, and also connecting with other people. So again, it goes back to very immersive, just enough information, and also kind of consumption driven. With our tablet design, tablets are not as prevalent, I would say, in the marketplace. We'll actually take a look at some of those statistics here in a bit. But it really dwarfs the usage of laptop computers and mobile phones. And I would say that's partially because it can be seen as a luxury component. So of course, ebook readers, they don't quite fall in this category, at least in this philosophy, I'd say. We're used to seeing e-readers for very specific use cases or very specific consumption patterns. So in this case, we're only reading a book. And we might, if the tablet is particularly advanced, we can actually tweet out or share to Facebook a passage in a book. But there aren't a lot of other things that we can use that e-reader for. On the other hand, we have iPads and Android tablets, and we consider this a lean back kind of design philosophy, where we're looking at someone who is kind of relaxing into this content. They're using this content or this device in their spare time. It's not as utilitarian as a desktop, laptop, or cell phone. And because of the extra screen real estate, what we're looking at is mirroring that desktop experience. So it may not be a one-to-one comparison where we're just rendering a desktop experience on a tablet, but we're looking at kind of the same use cases. So being able to investigate content or do a little bit deeper research on content or products that they're looking to purchase. But it also serves as an intermediary between the devices. So if I start researching on my cell phone, for example, I may continue my research on the tablet or continue it on desktop. Similarly, because the usage is so low on tablets, we're actually looking at perhaps starting our not design process, our research process or consumption process on a tablet and then moving it off to either a desktop or a mobile phone. Some patterns I've actually seen that have cropped up in recent years is the ability to look at content in Google Chrome, and there's usually a button in the address bar or the search bar where you can tap and send to another device. So I have a feeling that that's probably pretty important on tablet, being able to see that same information but see it elsewhere. Because generally with a responsive design or flexible design system, it will kind of relay out that information, but also make it, again, a little bit more user-friendly or more snackable based on the screen size. With our desktop design, that has been a design medium that has existed for a very long time. I would actually say that mobile design and mobile products actually far exceed the usage of desktop products, especially when it comes to different socioeconomic environments as well as different countries as well. So for some people, I'd say a lot of the kids, maybe K8 or younger, we're looking at mobile phone being actually their primary device, or even tablets being their primary device, digital device, where they consume information and share information well before using a desktop or a laptop computer. And that's partially the availability of these products and perhaps also inheriting some of the devices from their parents as well. So with desktop experiences, we find that a lot of our users actually they use desktops to dive into really detailed work where they're spending a lot of time on one particular task. So, for example, being able to file your taxes, you may be able to look at one of your finance apps and look at all of the visualizations of your financial data on tablet. Maybe again, that's very snackable. You might use your mobile phone to check in on the progress of your tax return and maybe to look at the amount of the return or the amount due. But then you actually might do all of your tax preparation on the desktop. And again, it comes to not only the screen size, but also your input devices as well. So with my mobile phone, I only have the screen, really. But with my desktop or even with a tablet, I actually have a full-blown keyboard. I have a mouse that I can use to point as well. So it lends itself to really detailed work and a little bit more of a comfortable environment where you can dive into specific details, especially if there's a lot of input areas. So it's used for, again, very detailed information and also more complicated tasks. Um, Adobe came out with a series of mobile apps for design work, which is super fascinating because I never actually thought that I would do any design work on my mobile device or on my tablet, but they've certainly tried to increase, again, the accessibility of their products based on this multi-modal, multi-device environment. So I've grown up designing on a desktop computer, on a laptop, but here now I'm starting to look at ways to augment my design practice by using my mobile phone or my tablet device, these other devices that I actually carry around with me more just because of the portable nature of those products. So even Adobe Spark or Adobe Aero. So Spark is this social media program that you can use to make little videos or little graphics or photos for Instagram or for Facebook. So those are done in a really snackable pattern. I don't have to download Photoshop on my desktop, for example, to create these graphics anymore. I can just use this really simple program. Similar with Adobe AR, or I'm sorry, Adobe Aero, which is their AR product. I can also demo it on my phone and be able to create this augmented reality experience, albeit a little bit simple at the point, and port that over into a desktop experience at a later time. So some really neat multimodal experiences, again, are cropping up, but it all stems from these different design philosophies. So how does someone use content on mobile? How does someone use content on desktop? How does someone use content on tablet? And these are things that I want you to keep in mind as you work on your digital design product. So this, I would not say, is the all-encompassing, super accurate representation of all of the different devices. We will actually talk about those breakpoints here in a later video, but we can actually see visually kind of this comparison of products where it goes from smartphones to phablets, which is this cross between phone and tablet, and then the actual full-blown tablet. And we can see how the screen sizes actually are dramatically affected based on the product. So here, for our smaller devices, we're looking at cell phones, things with pretty intricate technologies that are available. So not just being able to make a phone call, but use different apps to use them for consumption and production of content. With phablets, we start kind of meshing the different models of interaction. So you can not only create content, you can also consume it, but the type of content you can create is most likely a little bit more intricate. And then with large tablets, we're looking at almost a desktop or a laptop replacement or augmentation for experiences, but also you can use tablets for a significant amount of content production as well. So I've seen a lot of UI artists, especially in the gaming industry, use tablets to create these really beautiful gaming experiences, and they do that primarily on a tablet. So for more resources on responsive design and just where it's used and these philosophies of lean back and lean forward, I highly recommend this SlideShare tutorial about these different philosophies and also the devices and the type of content that's used and how they're similar but different between these different device sizes. And this video or this SlideShare is provided by Whirlpool, which is a very a very big company here in the US, but something worth exploring if you want to know more about responsive design.